It's Alaska, and we have got a very special guest. Well, they're all special. I guess I say that about every guest, but you are even more special because we get to talk about one of the fun, big events that happens in Alaska called the Iditarod. And we've got Karin Hendrickson on the show. Hi, Karin.
Hello.
Now, people probably say Karen, don't they?
Not to my face.
No. That's nice. But when they do, I mean, because unfortunately, Karen, as you know, has now become a negative title for, somebody that's, a pain in the ass.
I mean, I'll own it if I have to. But,
You don't have to. I have two sweet old aunts that are named Karen, and they don't deserve that moniker. So I love Karin. That's nice. And your mom did that because why?
She needed all of us to be just a little different.
Different.
It has made life complicated, I will tell you.
And are you a little different? In a good way?
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, the Iditarod, 4-time finisher, and something that people need to know about the Iditarod is that it's a marathon, and whether you finish first or 10th or 12th or 15th or 40th, if you finish, you're a winner. It's that kind of a race because it's one that is not easily done and easily finished. How many have you been in?
So I actually have finished 6.
6 of them, okay.
And competed in 10. No, finished 7? No, 7. You lose track after a while.
Thanks for your notes, Tom. His notes said 4-time Iditarod finisher. So
4 times since I got hurt.
Okay, and we'll talk about that coming up here in just a little bit. So what's your Alaska story? Were you born and raised here? Did you move up here? What's your story? What brought you up here?
I actually came up to run dogs.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, it's a funny story, and it's all my mom's fault.
Mom again.
Yeah. Iditarod does a big outreach to classrooms. They have an entire curriculum set up around Iditarod, and you can do write a letter to a musher, make a graph of the mileage, all these different things. So you can teach that in your classroom.
And where were you at? What?
I was living in Idaho at the time.
Okay.
My mom was teaching. She'd been teaching elementary school and using Iditarod curriculum forever. When she retired as a teacher, she came up as a volunteer, and Iditarod has put on. There's very few actual paid positions. That entire race. All the insane logistics and all the things that go into putting on and staging a race of that length across that kind of wilderness, it's all volunteers.
Wow.
So my mom came up as a volunteer, and the next year she said, well, you're going to have to come up with me. And I said, Mom, I get 2 weeks of vacation a year. I am not going to volunteer somewhere in Alaska in the winter with a bunch of old ladies. I'm picturing...
Be in the middle of nowhere, it's cold.
Well, I'm picturing answering phones and I don't know,
Okay.
And I came up because she was not letting me go. I came up in 2002 and saw my first sled dog ever. And I didn't really do a lot of phone answering. I did a lot of running around. I was at the start. I was helping teams get going. I was helping put harnesses on.
So you were active.
I was right in the middle of it. And it was an amazing experience, and I loved it. Came up again as a volunteer the next year, and then I was like, I could probably do this.
Do this, really? So when was your first race then?
My rookie year was 2009. I did not come up with the intention of actually racing dogs ever. I came up thinking, I need a big change. I want to do something different. I'll come up and be a dog handler. So I had a pretty good career as an air pollution analyst and owned my own home, had a horse I was training. I had all kinds of things going on in Idaho. Got a divorce real quick and had
you don't have
unload all the baggage.
Time for that. Yeah.
Did not have time for any of that. And I came up and I was a handler for 2 years where you work for room and board and you get a chance to learn a bunch and maybe do a little bit of shorter races, the mid-distance races, which are 200-300 miles.
Just 300 miles. That's it.
So there's little shorties. So I came up as a handler and kind of thought I had got it out of my system, but I was really not that happy. Just trying to check back into
You wanted to try. I want to do this. I want to race. In the
I wanted to
Iditarod.
run dogs, and I didn't want to run Iditarod because that's for crazy people. And I knew a lot of the crazy people doing it, and they would sit and tell stories, and I would think, no way in hell am I doing that? Those people are nuts.
And the small ones, 200-300 miles. The Iditarod is how long?
The Iditarod's a little over 1,000 miles.
1,000 miles.
Yeah. So, and The shorter ones are also usually more local. You're not completely in, way out in the middle of nowhere. Because once you leave Willow for Iditarod, that's it. You don't see.
There's nothing.
Well,
but
there's
trees
villages. There's villages, and they're small. Yeah. So I really didn't plan on doing Iditarod, but I was doing, the mid-distance races and having a good time and building my team. Yeah. And my good friend Ryan Reddington, and the Reddington name is huge in
very
in
well
Iditarod.
known. Yeah.
He's a grandson of Joe, who kind of founded the race. Yep. Ryan had borrowed one of my dogs for his Iditarod team, and I happened to have a free buddy pass, so I just flew up to Nome just to see the finish, just because I thought it would be fun. And while I was there, I was sitting listening to a couple of guys talking about their race and how going across Tripod Flats, they'd had like broken runners, and they were trying to keep up with the team, and they had nothing to stand on, so they were running and crying, and it was windy, and like all these things that like these big tough guys talking about like sobbing for hours as they like struggled through this thing, and I thought, my God, these people are insane.
Yeah, that wouldn't be something that would be like, yeah, you got to do this. No. Grown men sobbing because they had to run with their team because they couldn't. There was no place to jump on the sled anymore. Wow.
Yeah, and then they looked at me and they're like, "Well, you have a team. Why aren't you got your qualifiers done? Might as well just get it out of your system. You're going to do it." And I was like, "Oh no, boys, I'm not doing that." And they're like, "Yeah, you are. Go ahead. Get yourself signed up. You need to get over this and get on with it." And I guess peer pressure. I don't know.
It sounds like peer pressure. Yeah. So what was your first year? The first year was
2009.
2009.
And that was a pretty rough year, and I'm pretty glad I ran a tough year as a rookie because, the next couple ones weren't nearly as tough, and that was better.
To get that, yeah, because then it seems, this is,
Yeah.
You do that first one, if it's easy, it's like, this is nothing.
You got to earn it. You got to earn it.
You better hit that adversity right away, and then do all the learning there, and then get better. So what was it like your first time?
I was just talking to Tom about this. The thing is you read all the stories and you read all the books, and I had like notes on each section of the trail, and it's like I have all these stories in my head about like falling down the Happy River steps and crashing on this cliff and like dying in Dalzell Gorge and falling in the rivers and how the burn will kill you, and that's like the first 300 miles, So in my head, I was like, every single run was going to be a complete disaster. And that was the hardest thing about being a rookie, was because you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know what's coming next. You have stories in your head, and they're all these catastrophes.
Has a musher ever died on the trail?
Not yet, but there's been so many close calls.
A lot of close calls, but nobody has passed on the trail yet. Thank God.
Yeah.
Knock on wood and all that.
And they do a really good job, but the honest truth is, if things are going south, it's usually the weather is really bad, and usually you are on your own. You better have your act together.
Yeah.
You better be prepared to hunker down at the very least, or get yourself out of it, because chances are nobody's coming to get you.
Did you have to learn some basic survival skills then too, like how to hunker down or how to make a snow fort or something?
Hopefully you know that stuff before you get to Iditarod. That's why you have qualifiers.
Okay.
That's why you are required to have a certain amount of time and experience on the runners. But you're not going to encounter the stuff on these mid-distance races generally that you encounter on Iditarod. It's a whole different world.
And it's important for people to know that you just don't go, hey, I want to be on the Iditarod. You have to go through some stuff first. You have to go. One qualifying race gets you in, or how does that work?
Well, it has changed over the years,
yeah.
And so currently, it's I want to say, and it may have changed, but currently I think it's 2 300-mile qualifiers and a 150 or 200 miles in addition. So at least 3 races to get in. And you just have to finish those, right? It doesn't really matter. You have to finish them. You have to get signed off. You have to get a good score by the vet. So you have little qualifying cards. So if you're like organizing one of the mid-distance races, one of the things you organize is for the qualifying people that are trying to get so that they can run Iditarod, is that they'll have their rookie musher card signed off by the vets and the race marshal that they handled themselves. They handled the situations, and they were safe out there.
And some people would think that, Iditarod is a male-driven or oriented sport, and it's not.
It's not.
And when you went in it, how many other women were racing in the Iditarod when you did it in 2009?
I would say it's about a third of the people running
Yeah.
the race on every given year are women. About a third. And that might have changed because we now have kind of a less than half the number of people racing in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I saw the race has 40 people this upcoming year in 2026 registered
Yeah,
to
and
race.
probably 35 will start.
Yeah, and 12 of them I think were women when I counted it. Yeah.
It's usually about a third. And especially when I was racing, we had Allie Zirkle. She placed second 3 years in a row,
Yeah.
and she's an amazing musher. She's an amazing dog person. She's a wonderful person, and she is just as tough as they come. I really wish she could have edged out, at least for one of those, because that would have been a huge boost. But the most amazing thing about Iditarod and dog mushing in general is nobody treats you any different. If you're tough enough to be out there and you're tough enough to run those dogs, go for it. Nobody treats you different out there.
That is awesome. That's nice. So your first race, how did you do on your first race in 2009?
Middle of the pack.
Okay.
Which is kind of, I always strive to be in the top 50%. So however many people started, whether it was 80 people started or, 60 people started, try to be in the top 50%. That's always been my goal, which is it's a pretty moderate goal.
Yeah.
But I worked full-time, and I continue to work full-time. There's really not anybody else at this time working full-time and then coming home and trying to train dogs after work. You just can't do an adequate job training.
Yeah.
And the last several years especially, if you get a rainstorm or a thaw has been happening, people pack up and go somewhere else where there's snow. Can't do that if you're working.
Yeah, the weather's been very, very unpredictable here the last
Right.
several years.
Right.
Yeah. What was in 2009, what was your toughest part of doing the Iditarod during the race? What was the toughest thing when you look back? Man, I can't believe I survived or I made it through that part of it.
Yeah, we had a pretty legendary windstorm that year. And so I was, middle of the pack. I was back on the Yukon River, and I went to leave Grayling, and there was no trail. And it's 65 miles up to the next checkpoint, which is a camp on an island, Eagle Island.
The temperature's about what?
I think it was about 20 below, but the winds were insane.
Was that with or without wind chill?
We don't talk about wind chill.
Okay, no wind chill. Oh, you don't.
There's no point in talking about
Okay.
wind chill. You just talk about the actual temperature, and then, was it windy or not windy?
So if it was windy, just imagine wind chill was probably 40, 50, 60 below or
But
something
if you have
like
a
that.
wind layer on, then you don't.
Then it's not as big of a
It's
deal.
irrelevant.
Okay,
You
that's
cover
good.
you cover your face, you cover your extremities, and who
There
cares
you go.
about the wind?
Wind layer, everybody. If you don't like
right.
wind chill, wind layer. All right.
And if you're really tough, you don't talk about wind chill. That's for city people.
That's okay. I could tell right away I mentioned wind chill. Nobody cares about wind chill here. I like
at
that.
all.
All right.
Yeah.
So what was the toughest? So you were.
That was it. It was just not being able to see. Markers were blown away. Then the trail. So we're on the Yukon River.
How do you? There's a trail. There is no trail that you can find. How do you know where you're going?
So
It's got to be terrifying.
It's this very intense communication between you and your leaders. So they're feeling, it's they can physically feel where the snow is packed versus not as
Leaders
packed.
are your dogs.
And
right?
so in my dog team, the dogs in the front half are my leaders, the front several pairs. And so they would be out there feeling their way along, and if they started floundering too much, I had to figure out, was that a drift or were we off the trail? Because we can't really see the trail.
Oh, wow.
So it took me 13 hours to get from Grayling to Eagle Island, which is normally a 7-hour run. That one was tough, but there wasn't anything to do but just keep trudging, and
How
that's
scary? How scary is it? If you drive in a snowstorm, it is terrifying when you I can't see the road. But to be on a dog sled doing it where there is no place to turn off or anything like that, it must be.
It's funny though, because Iditarod it's not that sexy. It's not that exciting. It's a trudge fest. It's a nose to the grindstone. You just keep going and you do the next thing. And that's my sort of mental motto.
Yeah.
Whenever it's tough, you do the next thing. And what's the next thing? Figure out where the trail goes and get to the next checkpoint, because that's safety.
Solving problems. Is
Yeah, you
basically
solve
what the
problems as
Iditarod
you
is
go.
Doing.
And so the number of times I've been really scared out on the trail, it's pretty limited. You might have a momentary oh no moment,
Yeah.
a moose is charging you, or oh, I just fell off a 10-foot cornice or whatever, but it's momentary. To be truly scared out there, 2014 was super scary, but 2009 I was scared to leave Grayling, but once I was going, you just go.
What happened in 2014?
the worst trail in the history of anything. It was so scary. It was anybody who ran that year still talks about it, and we kind of clinch up a little bit. It was frozen ice instead of snow. And so anybody who's skied or snowboard can imagine trying to control your boards as you're going over frozen ruts and roots and rocks. Like you're just getting jerked and flung around, and then if you hit, like you're gonna get hurt. And the dogs just go faster because you can't slow them down. Your brakes don't work when there's no snow. And that was a scary year.
And for that too, I mean, does the trail change every year? I mean, it's, is it the same trail, or do they change up the routes, or?
The route is basically the same, but of course it's never identical.
The conditions are
change.
different.
The conditions change drastically. Sometimes it's rerouted a little bit. One of the things is your GPS isn't really going to help you out there, because if you're even 3 feet off the trail, you're out of luck because you're floundering around in deep snow. You have to know where the packed trail is. And your GPS isn't going to tell you precisely where that is. So, you kind of have to stay on the trail.
And I can hear somebody just in my head telling me to ask this question. What is it like when you have to deal with a moose? You're on the trail. What's the most common situation with a moose when you're out there sledding?
Yeah, I've never had. I mean, I've had like a drive by where they just jump over you, or they momentary face off during Iditarod.
They jump over you?
Sometimes.
Literally over you, like
or the team, or they just kind of rush past you. On other races, and a lot of times at home training, we do have pretty big encounters with moose. So anybody who's out there without a firearm and prepared to deal with it is an idiot.
Must have a gun, right? And part of the Iditarod too is this happened. Was it last year, 2 years ago? Where was it? Dallas Seavey had to shoot the moose?
Dallas got clobbered by a moose. His team got clobbered. He did. He shot it.
He had to shoot it, and then he had to.
You then have to gut it. I mean, that's a state regulation. If you take a game animal for whatever reason, you are required to render it salvageable, which means you have to gut it.
Yeah.
And so we're all out there like, oh God, I hope I don't have to shoot a moose, because I don't have to. How are you going to hold your team down? They don't stop really well. They don't stand still real well. So hopefully, you can do the quickest, dirtiest gutting job ever. But then, how are you racing when you're covered in, you don't want to get wet out there.
Yeah.
Anyways, I've never had to do that on the trail.
Oh, thank goodness. But it does happen.
It happens. It happens quite a bit during training.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How long does somebody train before they go in the Iditarod? Is there a standard of training? I mean, you're always training, right? You're training throughout the year.
Well, we usually it's pretty warm in the summer, so a lot of the dogs go down and do summer tours where they're just doing short little quarter-mile loops. We don't really start training in earnest until August.
Okay.
As soon as it's cool enough, then you start doing 5-mile runs in August, and then
that's where you strap them up on
a four-wheeler.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
And then they just push you.
So then we go out and do a couple 5-mile runs, and then bump it up, and do a couple 7-mile runs, and bump it up, and do a couple 10-mile runs, and you just keep bumping it up until you're doing pretty long runs.
What's the best thing about Iditarod? We talked about what the toughest thing you went through. What's the best thing? What's that highlight? Just finishing, crossing the line, or
just there's so many things out there that are amazing. Just the people and the wilderness you go through, the places you go. The bond with your dogs you cannot get that just hiking with your dog or loving on your dog on the couch. It's a completely different. When your survival and their survival are completely intertwined, and you're out there working as a team, that's a rush. Just the camaraderie with the other mushers. But for me, the biggest thing is doing something hard, and it's pretty hard.
Yeah.
Giving yourself a really big challenge to go after. Because honestly, I did my last Iditarod in 22. And since then, I've been a little bit of at a loss as far as, what am I supposed to do with myself?
What's next? You've done this amazing thing. What's next?
Right. Yeah.
Well, you're a thrill. Do you consider yourself a thrill seeker then?
I'm not this reckless out there crazy person, but I get bored pretty easily.
Okay.
And I I think I need a little bit more adrenaline in my life. So
baking isn't going to do it.
no, no.
No, that's the Iditarod is just an amazing story, and it's worldwide. We had somebody in talking about it was Brad. He was in talking about how he has people over in Africa that are into the Iditarod and doing things all over the world. And the Iditarod, there are sometimes some negative stuff about it. You know, you've got your PETA and your animal activists. What do you say to somebody that says, "Oh, that's a mistreatment of animals"? Do you have a certain, hey, this is how it, you don't understand. This is how it goes.
If it's PETA, I don't engage with them because they're basically a terrorist organization and they do not have animal welfare at their heart.
Yeah.
And that's my little soapbox. They really are not there to take care of animals. And you can look at their shelters and how many animals they're killing there versus how many animals actually die during Iditarod doing something they love to do. So PETA is a separate subject. But if somebody truly comes to me and they are truly concerned about the animals, the dogs out there, then I'll talk to them about the fact that, like, these dogs are bred and born for this and they love it. And even when they're tired and we're 700 miles into the race and they're tired, they're still going to rip the hook out of the ground and take off without you if you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
They still want to go. And they love it. And they are adapted to it. People worry about them being out in the cold, but, we have moose and fox and wolves, and they live out in the cold. That's their normal environment. And these dogs are built for this. They're fine. And we take care of them, and as long as we're feeding them and keeping them hydrated, they're fine in those temperatures, and so am I.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing is people can't imagine how do you function at 40, 50 below. You just do.
Yeah, that's true. That's it's a good explanation because a lot of times when people ask those questions, they come in a place of they don't know. They heard from somebody else or they saw something on TV. They don't come into a place of knowledge,
Well, and we see people, they look at a picture of a dog curled up with snow drifted over it, and they're horrified.
Yeah.
But you got to stop and think, if the snow is drifting over the animal, they're not losing heat. That means that they are warm under their blanket or their coat. And so I'm never concerned when I see snow drifted up on a dog's face. I am concerned if I see that they're melting that snow. That means they're losing heat and they're getting wet, and now I have a problem.
Well, they see the commercials with Sarah McLachlan in the background and stuff,
Right,
and they're seeing that's a completely different situation.
And not that there are not some mushers out there who are not doing best by their dogs, but the vast majority, especially at the Iditarod level, we're not doing this because we don't love dogs. Why would you spend all your time and energy and money and
money?
heartbreak?
I was just going to say, Iditarod, most people are spending their money to be a part of it. There isn't a ton of money to be won. People are spending their own money to be a part of it.
Even if you're winning it, you're not covering your feed bill.
Yeah.
So then you're going after sponsors, which is a possibility if you're Dallas CV. But if Dallas CV stops winning, he stops having sponsors also.
Yeah.
So even if you're getting good sponsorship, you're probably not covering your costs.
You do it because you love it. Because
right.
you love it and like you said, like
100%.
everything you explained about the animals and the dogs and the other mushers and just the mushing community.
Right.
I do want to ask you, because I remember this story when it happened, when it was the accident that you got into while you were training your dogs, right?
You've got to be famous for something.
Exactly. Right. I remember you from a horrible accident. Yeah, great. Thanks. That's what I'm known for is that horrible accident. When was that? That was
2014.
So that was after that you had run the Iditarod race.
So yeah, I ran that March, and then the following fall I was getting ready for my 6th Iditarod, 7th Iditarod, whatever number it was. And I was out on a 4-wheeler with 14 dogs hooked up, running on a trail, the side trails next.
Yeah.
They're not really that close to the highway, but they are if somebody comes at you head on at 70, they're pretty close.
Yeah, because they're right off the highway.
Yeah.
I mean, not right off the highway, but yeah.
Yeah.
So you were training your dogs. What day? What month? It was.
It was like 2 days before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And I was trotting along and thinking about what I was going to eat because I was super hungry because I had
Thanksgiving's coming up. Come on.
Right? Come straight home from work and, bolt out the door to go get my training done so I can be in bed before midnight so I can get up and go to work. My schedule was insane. And I had like another 10 miles to run, and I was just, trotting along, watching the dogs go, and I see somebody starting to pull over, and people pull over and take photos all the time, but it was kind of dark, and it was a weird place to pull over, and then I was watching them come, and they weren't really pulling over. They were kind of coming at us, and I started getting pretty upset because I thought, oh my, they're going to plow through the dogs. And they cleared the last of the dogs, and I went, oh, thank God they're not going to hit the dogs. And then I realized they were hitting the four-wheeler that I was on, head on.
Wow.
And they were going highway speed, so it was a pretty big thing.
At least 60, 65 miles an hour if they were hitting the speed limit, and they hit you head on?
Head on into my four-wheeler. And then that launched me, so I had to measure for the lawyers later. I went down about a 15-foot embankment and over about 30 feet. And as I was flying, I was like, I knew my four-wheeler, it was kind of tumbling around behind me. I knew the car was somewhere behind me. I knew I was kind of near this creek, and there was a lot of rebar right around the culvert, and I was kind of worried
Thinking
about
all these things
these things in my head.
The air.
And then after a while, I was like, damn, I've been up here a while. I should probably start thinking about landing this. And because I've done a lot of skiing and jumping off of things skiing, just started windmilling my arms and getting my feet underneath me, which is really the only reason that I didn't just splatter on impact. I landed on my feet.
The fact that you survived is amazing.
It is.
But you were thinking of this whole process as it was going.
The whole time.
And you were preparing yourself like, okay, I got to do something to, somewhat save myself or put myself in a better position of landing. Wow. So then what happened? So then obviously you...
Well, I landed on my feet, but I mean, from that distance, my legs could only absorb so much. But that's kind of why I didn't get really hurt. I just broke my back in 3 places. So that was a pretty big deal.
That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
But I mean, to survive that, is there, like a chance of surviving that is like 1 in a million, or did they have any statistics for something like that?
I don't have any statistics, but everybody who saw me at following that at the hospitals and everything assumed I was in another vehicle, not on a four-wheeler.
Not just on an unprotected four-wheeler.
Yeah.
Wow. So how long did it take you to get some help from there? Was it fairly quick?
Well, as far as getting help right there, the first thing I did was I started calling neighbors because my dogs were now at risk. They will continue to run. They were still all roped together.
While you're on the ground, you were calling. Oh wow.
Yeah.
So you're conscious. So you were conscious.
I didn't hit my head, and I knew I was pretty hurt, and I knew I wasn't going anywhere, and my boots had flown off, and I was just sort of laying there like, oh, I'm screwed. But the dogs will run, and if one of them falls down, they'll keep running and drag it. And if one of them gets pissed at another one and they decide to fight, bad things happen when dogs run loose. Plus, we're right next to the highway, so I started calling neighbors, and man, that mushing community is amazing. People just poured out of their houses and came out and started rounding up dogs and flagging traffic and telling them to watch out. And they got all those dogs back before I made it down to Alaska Regional.
Really? How long was how long was the, recovery for something like that? You broke your back. Did you break both legs too? Or
I didn't break a leg. I had some sort of weird soft tissue trauma to my legs, and a lot of bruising from my heels were kind of purple, landing.
I can't imagine. Trying to imagine the video of my head of you flying and then landing on your feet. I mean, that must have been just amazing. I mean,
I was too busy thinking about all the things at that point.
Which saved your life.
Yeah.
Probably. All those things of, life slowed down in your head to be able to, okay, this is how I'm going to, survive this.
But you have to have that ability when you run dogs, because when things go bad, they go bad really quick, and then you have 16 dogs or whatever else, plus a moose, plus yourself, plus whatever else is going on.
You have seconds to make the right
decision. You have to think fast.
So your sled dog training did help you in this scenario, in this situation.
Well, and I grew up doing things where you have to make quick decisions, ski racing and horse jumping and whitewater kayak, and it's like you do train yourself to handle those kinds of things. So
yeah.
But it was a very long recovery. I was home before Christmas, but I was in like a full body cast thing for like 6 months.
Those never look like fun.
No. And, they told me in physical therapy, they had said, you're going to make a full recovery. But, the medical definition of full recovery means like you're going to be able to walk and go to work. It doesn't mean you're going to be an athlete anymore.
Like you're probably never going to do the Iditarod again.
I was told I would probably never race again.
And that was 2014. When did you end up racing? When was your next Iditarod then?
So I was still in my body cast in 2015 in March, and then I spent the whole summer rehabbing, and I ran the next Iditarod. So I skipped one.
Wow, just one. Just that you were out just one. That is amazing. So how was that one? I mean, obviously, I don't want to say a new lease on life or anything, but I mean, you just survived, something that you probably shouldn't have. Was the race a little bit different that year for you?
It was.
Were you trying to prove something like, hey,
I wasn't sure I could do it physically because, I continue to have pretty bad back pain. And Iditarod's already pretty hard. And then you add in, like, crippling pain. And the biggest deciding factor is, like, you have to be able to take care of the dogs. That's your bottom line. You have to feed them. You have to take care of their feet. You have to get their blankets on them and their straw down. It's a very physical thing. You have to be able to drive the team safely over really rugged terrain and not lose them because, as I mentioned before, if you lose a team, you can really end up with dead dogs.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure if the pain got worse and worse and worse, if I'd be functional enough to take care of the team. And that was my biggest concern. And after about 500 miles, I was like, I got this. So
I'm able to.
Yeah.
I'm going to be able to do this, but
it's
the whole thing up to you didn't know.
Yeah, it's super funny. I actually did an interview in Uniclete, which is, I want to say like 750 miles in, 700 miles in. I don't recall doing it because there's the level of sleep deprivation out on the trail is like your brains don't function that well. So I did this really great interview. I made so much sense. I was talking about the dogs and how they were doing and talking about my back and how it was doing and like, I don't recall doing it, but I made all kinds of sense.
You saw me like, well, I'm good. All right.
I was so impressed. But also, like, my face was, like, round like a pumpkin and all windburned. And I was like, that is me, right?
So. What's the longest you've been up then? Like, when you talk about sleep deprivation, what's the longest you're usually up during a race? There is some sleep, because there's in the Iditarod race, there is some mandatory times where you have to get some rest. There's some, like, a 12-hour, 24-hour?
Well, it's built around the dogs.
Yeah.
So you stop the team and they stop moving and they instantly lay down and rest. You have an 8-hour break on the Yukon somewhere and you have an 8-hour break at White Mountain, which is right before the finish.
That doesn't mean you're resting. The dogs are.
Right.
So you are what? Preparing? You feed the dogs,
Sure,
but you're preparing to go up.
So, and the entire race, it's really what you're doing is managing the dog team, watching your team, seeing what they're capable of, and working your entire schedule around what they're doing and how they're feeling. And so basically, if I'm running 6 hours and resting maybe 4 hours, that's the dogs resting 4 hours.
Yeah.
And so the first thing I do when I come in is I stop the team, I give them a snack. They need so many calories, so constantly giving them food. I give them a snack, I get the cooker going so I can melt water, I get straw down, I get their booties off, I get their jackets on. By then I have boiling water, I'm giving them a meal, I'm reloading up all my supplies with my resupply bags, repacking my sled. Then I've got probably an hour, hour and a half if I'm really efficient. I can go lay down, eat, lay down, maybe change my socks.
That's about it, 1 hour.
Hour and a half, and then I got to be up, and it takes ridiculously long to get dressed again when you're that groggy and that tired. So you got to get dressed, got to get boots on the dogs, and got to get up and get going. So,
and I can't imagine you're getting good sleep. I mean, an hour, that's not enough that's not enough REM sleep. So it's, it's a nap, basically.
You get a nap, and the weird thing is sometimes, like, you're just so, like, when you hit a checkpoint, you have this list of things you have to get through as quick as you can. So you're going through this list, and then you're like, okay, now go sleep. Doesn't really happen that way. But you at least lay down, rest your body, try to refuel, make sure you got, hot water for the next run because you got to stay hydrated. So basically you're doing that a couple times. So you might get an hour here, an hour there, maybe a couple hours a day.
Wow.
For the duration of the race. Now, when you have your 8-hour breaks, you might lay down for a little bit longer. But you still got to get up and feed those dogs. Like, every couple of hours, maybe every 4 hours max, because they are like consuming so many calories. It's insane.
There's no point where you're like, oh, okay, I can get a good strong 8 hours of sleep here. That's not
You can on your 24
hour.
You can on your 24-hour break, but then like you feel immensely worse when you actually sleep. Your body goes, oh yeah, let me show you how we really feel.
Yeah, because you need more sleep than
And
that.
everything hurts, and it's just, I don't even know if I can describe the level of fatigue within a couple of days of being on the trail. It's like it hurts to think, it hurts to move. Tying your shoes is hard. Like anything you know by rote that you don't have to think about, putting on booties, loading your sled, you can do that in your sleep, basically, and you are. You have to do math. Like, let's say you got there at 4:30 and you want to take a 4-hour break, and then you're counting backwards like, I need an hour to get ready. Already I'm counting on my fingers and I already forgot what I said.
Wow.
Like, you can't do clock math. Like, it's just painful to even think about.
The Iditarod is just an amazing race, and your last one was in 2022. Are you still a part of it then?
I've gone out as a race judge and a race volunteer a couple of times. Didn't go out last year, and I probably won't be able to get out this year because I basically have 2 sprained ankles, and if you can't walk around, you can't do much.
No, that's true.
So, and then I was involved in getting some other races up and going and helping out with some of our mid-distance races. So
I was reading that that's one of the issues with the races, that there aren't as many mid-level races to qualify as there used to be. Is that true, that there isn't as many?
Yeah, well, we lost the Willow 300 a couple of years ago, and I mean, Willow is a mecca for dog mushing. It's one of the bigger mushing areas in the state. To not have a race there is ridiculous. So then we started and generated a new race out there, and I'm not involved with that race anymore, so I'm not really sure exactly what they have going on. It's less of an Iditarod qualifier now than I think just like a fun event, but I'm not 100% sure on that one. But yeah, we've lost a few races, and there's still big races in Bethel, big races in Kotzebue, but like if you were like me, a broke musher, working off of no sponsorships and trying to find time off of work, you're not flying out to those races that are off the grid.
Those cost money. Yeah. Is there a time in the near future where there isn't Iditarod anymore? I mean, when you look at it, when you look at the challenges of just money and finances and perception of what it is, whether it's right or wrong, and perception doesn't really matter. Perception is so important. It doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong. It is the perception of something. Is there a future in the next 10, 15 years where maybe there is an Iditarod?
I mean, I hate to even try. It's hard to imagine
Alaska.
Alaska.
It's a tough question.
It's hard to imagine Alaska without it.
I can't imagine living here, and I've lived here for 20 years now. I can't imagine. There was a time when they didn't know they were going to do Ferrande anymore, and I'm like, I can't imagine a winter here without that big Ferrande festival and Iditarod, which come together at the same time, and it's just awesome. It's great to be in Alaska, whether it's out in the valley or Anchorage. It's just such a fun time. I can't imagine not having the Iditarod here.
I can't imagine it either, and I think it will continue in some form. But I mean, already they're putting in like a touring class, which I really hate the idea of.
What's a touring class?
It's some sort of watered down version where you can go slower and maybe like you pay to be there. Not that you don't already pay to be there. I'm not 100% sure what it is.
It's more of a tourist guide kind of thing.
And it bothers me a lot because one of the huge appeals to me when I first started racing was like, doesn't matter who you are or where you're coming from or what you know. If you can handle your dogs and if you're tough, then you can go out and do it. And you're out there playing with Lance Mackey and all the big names, and you're in there with them. Not that I ever thought I was going to be like competitive top 10, but I could have been. I was top 20 one year as I was a couple hundred miles from the finish line, and I thought, man, I'm going to really break this thing open. So
it's not the same when you're racing and, hey, there's Peggy and Steve from Fort Lauderdale. Hey, they're waving and they're nice, they're nice winter gear that they bought 2 weeks ago.
And then the other thing too is like, even if you're not racing, so you're getting more sleep, everything is way easier when you're getting more sleep.
Yeah.
One year I slowed my race way down because the dogs were really faltering and I was resting a lot, so I was sleeping a lot. And holy moly, everything was so much less stressful.
Yeah.
But even if you're taking it slower, the trail challenges are still there. You still have to know how to handle a dog team. You still have to know how to handle the cold. You still have to be prepared to take care of yourself in a windstorm. And I'm not sure that those people will be. I don't know what the qualifications are. Like, that's a part of Iditarod I haven't kept up on. I don't think it's that smart to stick people out there who don't know what they're doing.
I think that's a horrible idea.
Yeah.
That's a horrible idea. But you see the Iditarod continuing for the next 10, 15, maybe 20 years. I mean, into the future. But
there's so many people that are so passionate, that care so much.
How's the younger generation? That's a big part of it. Things can die out when the older generation dies out and the younger generation isn't there to pick it up, to fall in love with it. How is the younger generation with the Iditarod and just dog mushing in general? I'll
tell you, one of the things I've noticed in the last several years is like people are coming in at checkpoints going, where's the outlets? I need to plug in my iPod. I need to plug it. Or not. I guess people are out there with iPods because
still, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, phones don't do real well out there.
Yes, so
but they're like,
iPods,
they want to charge up their headlamps. They want to charge up their iPhones. And it's like, I sound like an old fogey, but I'm like, man, when I was running, you weren't charging anything
stations,
up. No.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, like these bridges aren't in. And it's like, I've been through a lot of creeks where there weren't bridges, and you just deal with it. You do that next thing, right? So I think, I don't want to say they're softer, but I kind of want to say they're softer.
Well, it is what it is, I mean, you could say, with technology, everybody's living a life of leisure and less stress and less having to, pitch in and help people. And I think that's kind of the reason why we're in the condition we're in, where, you're not waving to, random people you don't know. You're just kind of living your own life, and that's technology. So something like the Iditarod is good because it shows you that, nature still will always, nature still can always win.
But also, you go out there and you've got a help button now. And it doesn't mean help is coming right away, but people get this false sense of security. Like, if I get in over my head, I can press the help button. And
suddenly a helicopter just comes over, picks you up and drops you out. That's
probably not going to work that way. But like, I have always been of the very firm persuasion that like, I will never press that thing. Unless it's a matter of maybe saving a dog.
Death. Yeah, saving a dog or
something.
Like, if I don't do this, I'm gonna die. Or
that
something.
happens all the time out there. No, I mean
nobody dies, but I mean, where you think you might. Right?
When you're in a big bad windstorm, chances are you need to keep moving, or you need to set up shelter, and you better figure out which right now. Things like that happen a lot, or you get off trail. Or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with Iditarod, but the climate is definitely different. We're seeing so many more trails that are no longer there because water came up, the sea ice isn't freezing, training is harder. Used to be you could train on KGB and, Connect Goose Bay Road. Lots of people trained there. There's hardly snow there anymore.
Yeah.
So I was in Willow, and Willow used to just be like no-brainer. You could train in Willow, and the last couple of years it's been icy and swamps not freezing, and it's a challenge to train in Willow now.
The planet's changing, and we're seeing earlier springs and later falls here. We've been seeing that for the last several years. So things are changing. Karin Hendrickson, this has been a privilege. Thank you for being on It's Alaska, and I ask, can we follow you anywhere? Are you?
I'm not going anywhere. Where are you going to follow me?
All right, that sounded creepy. Where can we stalk you, Karin? Are you on any social media platforms? Do you have anything to promote or?
You know what? A couple years ago, when I was just fighting for sponsorship, I would have been so excited about that.
Yeah.
But now I'm not really. I still have my Facebook account where I used to make regular, and Instagram where I would make regular posts about what was going on with the kennel, and I don't really post there anymore because,
Do you still have dogs though?
I don't. No.
No. Okay. All right. That's got to be hard, not having the dogs.
I mean, I will always have dogs. I have pet dogs now. I have some of my dogs that I raced with. I kept a couple of them.
Oh, you kept as pets. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I have dogs, but I don't have dogs.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your story with us.
Fun.
This was amazing. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.